what it is.
How you doing, man?
We've got Gooden in the building.
Nice to be
My
here.
man Gooden.
Thank you for having me, man.
He is rock and roll superstar. He is one of Wichita's own. He's been, how long have you been at the performance aspect of this professionally?
Man.
I know you've been playing at least since you were 5 or something.
I saw Kiss in right outside of Detroit, Michigan. I was raised in Ypsilanti. And when you see Kiss when you're 4, and they're flying around like superheroes and breathing fire and shooting stars out of their eye, you will never be the same. So people can say, like, I hate Kiss. Like, you don't understand, man. If you get that bug when you're little, you are messed up forever. It's wonderful. So I've been chasing that crazy dream forever. Man, I started playing drums first, and then you moved into, baby. Right. So, I mean, it's been decades, man. It's been at least 30 years. I went on the road right out of... kind of at the end. Well, I actually played with a reggae band from Wichita called Cry Out. I was a drummer.
Jerry Cry Out?
You know Jerry Cry Out, man?
I played for Jerry.
Stop it, man. They took me. That was one of the earliest times I got to go on the road, man. I bought this 1973 Chevy 3 on the tree, man. It was like Barney Rubble. Like, there was a hole in the bottom. We had to put, like, duct tape trash bags on our feet because stuff was coming up. And, man, I bought that thing for like $1,000. I thought I was the king. I was like, I got the transpo. And we went out to Vegas, man.
That is awesome.
And I was like, I'm on the road. I was like 16, 17. Anyway, Jerry gave me one of my first chances to tour. But yeah, man, I had a band called Safety Orange here in Wichita.
Right on.
And we toured a little bit. And man, it's been a good long road, man.
That trip. Bro.
Yeah. Which ICT, man, this is where all the things really started happening, man.
Yeah, buddy.
It's all coming back. I tell everybody that I met that's affiliated with Midtopia, Detour, elsewhere, all this magic empire you guys are building in. If this stuff would have been going on when I was trying to figure my stuff out, no way I would have been like, I am going to cook ramen in the coffee pots in the Motel 6s and move to Los Angeles. Like, nothing wrong with LA. Had a good time out there. But, man, if you got to leave your community to do something, if you got to, you leave the people you love. Yep. Yeah, no, you're really, you guys went out to California. You know it's the same thing, man.
Exactly same thing.
So hats off to what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, man. And like it's because of folks like you that laid that brick path, that did all the experimentation and figured out what does work, what doesn't work, what you got to do, what you can't do. And so
I can tell you things not to do today. That's for sure.
There we go.
No, you got a good crew here, man. It's cool. And you've seen it build this quickly, but build soulfully is cool. I mean, I was just talking to Drew about it, like being at Elsewhere. I've been fortunate over the years. I got to speak at some different festivals, do a couple things, and you would not know that was a first year. I mean, that thing felt like it was going 5-10 years. I mean, it was organized right. The bands were all great. The speakers were, it was good people, man. So,
thank you.
Yeah, hats off, man.
You are a financial literacy advocate and educator.
Yeah.
You've been at that for about what, 15 years now? Because
you know what, the charity has been. Yeah, man, you got a good memory. I think I was probably yelling about it 15 years ago, not knowing that it was called financial literacy.
Yep.
Just going, man, it's unfair. If somebody work hard, they should have a chance, and this whole thing, and really understanding. I ran into this guy out in Los Angeles who's really one of my mentors. I actually just interviewed him for in Atlanta for this documentary we're working on about this issue.
Beautiful. A
guy named John Hope Bryant. If y'all ain't heard of John Hope Bryant, check him out. He just wrote a book called Financial Literacy for All, and he's just fantastic. And he's actually got another one called The Poor, How the Poor Can Save Capitalism, that was really like a kind of a manifesto about just, making sure that anybody that's working hard, gets a chance.
Right on.
And he's a solid cat. And he's very good at taking big concepts and ideas and putting them in a way that are palatable, that people can work with and make some improvements and try to get some things going. But yeah, the charity became a 501c3. We're celebrating a decade right now. Woo. And I'll give you my little hypey stats. We've reached 300,000 students, 38 states. We've raised, I didn't actually realize this till I was asking for a bunch of money the other day. They're like, we need KPIs. I'm like, what is a KPI? Let me talk about my passion. You're like, man, your passion's only going to get you so far. We need some hard numbers. We've raised almost $4 million over the time for financial literacy. There's been...
what does KPI stand for?
That is a key performance indicator. I hope the musicians out there don't ever have to learn about KPIs. I'm a big proponent of you don't have to be good at everything. Hire somebody smarter than you to do it.
Please.
But inevitably, a guy kind of taught me this. He's like, look, man, as much as you may just want to go talk to the kids and shake the guitar around and be wild and crazy, for better or worse, you are the founder. And if you're the founder of something, you better get your butt out there and explain. They are going to want to make sure that whoever's behind this thing is And that's a cool thing is the students, man, they know. If what you're talking about isn't what you lived,
you're not lying.
If it's not authentic. So the other bands that were, talking about getting on the charity, and there's a young man out of Nashville named Carter Halsey who's done a lot of these shows too. So my hat's off to him. He's incredible.
Right on.
But yeah, it's been 38 states, and we've got a couple of governors. We've had Secretary of State of Atlanta, Brad Raffensperger, back to program. Attorney General out of South Carolina. We just worked with State Treasurer of Delaware. I go on and on. We're finally getting some folks. We're trying to make, I'll finally get to the point. The goal of the charity is to make financial literacy a requirement in every school.
Every school.
We feel like every kid deserves a chance. We say, if you don't want to work hard, I can't help you. But most people are good. Most people are trying.
They are.
So I wish I would have known that stuff. I don't know about you. I made every single mistake.
In progress, actually. So,
well, you're still a young man, Mark. You got it all. It's all ahead of you, baby. No, I was raised by a single mama here in Wichita. My parents had actually split when I was in Detroit. And it's not going to be therapy hour, folks. But in searching back and trying to figure out, why am I always worried about this? Is I watched my mom work so hard, and it did not matter. It does not matter how hard you work if you don't know the rules.
Yep.
If you're always behind, if that debt starts piling up, that interest gets higher than the principal, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't know about same-day loans till it was too late. I didn't know about credit cards till I'd already maxed mine out. I march into a bank when I'm 19. I'm going to start a record label. And they're like, what's your credit score? I'm like, what's a credit score?
Right.
Good luck, dum-dum. Like, you can't, I'm a big fan of, I love credit unions or local banks because they're in the community. But you can't really fault anybody for saying, if I'm never going to get my money back, I can't give you any money. So I had a victimhood mentality. This isn't fair. I'm trying to blah, blah. It's like, man,
learn the game.
But you can't. But at the same time, right? You can't blame somebody if they've never had a chance to learn.
If they don't know that there's a game to be learned or how to get into learning the game, and
now we're in the deep end right there. Yep, that's it, man. So,
that's really the crux is like where did you start? Like how did you, besides just walking in the bank and saying I want to do a thing, like when did the seriousness of what you were doing dawn on you and it's like, okay, I have to get this in order and this in order?
I tell you, I'm a late bloomer. I was never afraid to work hard, but I was not working smart. I had a million ideas and a million things I wanted to do, but it took me a long time. And actually, that's been a blessing too, because genre-wise, I've been in a lot of different places musically, and we'll get to that eventually. That's helped me with film and TV and publishing over the years. But as far as the band, it was really tough, because you didn't know if I was going to be in a funk band. I like Latin. I like straight rock and roll and yelling and have fun. I like a lot of things. You
start out with cry out.
Hey, man, I love some reggae drumming.
Come on.
I just love music, and my mother played classical piano. My dad took me to that Kiss concert, but he listened to Motown. And I loved movie scores, man. I saw Queen, that Flash Gordon soundtrack when I was a little kid. I was right, on my bed like a winged fighter listening to I was like, music and film, when they come together, to me is still the most powerful thing in the world.
It is, really
so
is.
even when I had moved out to LA, I was cobbling together money for night school. I went to UCLA. I took some publishing classes. I did study film at KU a little bit before I joined the circus and never came back. I left college to, get in the van. But I think the first time it started coalescing was trying to build my own studio. And I got enough years on me that it was before it was on a laptop.
Right, before the access increased exponentially.
And the one cool thing about that is it sort of, it forced you to go, if I'm going to do this, I got to save up my first $300 to buy a compressor, or I got to buy $200. I got to buy an EQ, which is an anathema. I mean, it's insane to anyone now. There's unlimited. But the thing about that was you definitely had to put your money where your mouth was. So I was, I got in this magazine, Guitar for the Practicing Musician, when I was really little. And I was really lucky for this guy, John Sticks, who ended up working with John Mayer and a few people.
Oh, right on.
And I remember him saying the best advice he gave me, he's just like, just play. I don't care if there's anybody there. If they're paying you, don't ask any questions, perform. Just because, it's like Stephen King said about reading. He's like, the books I read that are terrible taught me as much as the books I read that are great, because there's what I don't.
I believe
and so when the cable goes out or when the kick drum, the beater flies off, you got to get up and get up.
Make a thing happen.
Make a thing happen. So playing a lot and recording other bands helped me, because it kind of allowed me they would kind of get me to set in on stuff. I had to learn how to really use my gear. My dad came back in town, man, and he had this old car when I was 16, and he gave it to me. And I realized that's a crazy thing. That's a big thing to get.
Surely.
But my mom was just working and working. He came and he gave me his car. I sold it the next day, Marquis, and I bought an 8-track cassette recorder. And I started my little studio. I started renting to my friends for $5, $10.
Tascam?
You know about to sing cassette. You don't know about
that's
to
where I
sing.
started, brother.
I can see that interface today. It's like
sir.
magic. Well, before that, and I heard Dave Grohl tell this exact same story, so I'm not biting his thing. I actually, in COVID, we all slipped into nostalgia mode because we thought we were all going to die. I ordered the Onkyo double cassette deck because I used to do the thing where you record one, move it over, play, bass, guitar, because Prince was my guy. After Kiss, it was Prince. And it was like, he plays all the instruments? I need to learn how to play. Well, good luck. Yeah, man, recording those other bands, seeing that I could make some money while still kind of being music adjacent was super inspiring.
Nice.
So, I did all the stuff everybody else did, man. I was, mowing lawns and painting houses and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But, when you make your first, $100 for playing music, it's like, they don't tell them I would have done this for free.
Right.
But the problem is then it takes you a long time to learn your value.
Yep.
And that was really a big lesson for me. I think a lot of us in the Midwest, man, we're not only can-do people, but, we're kind of all shucks people.
Sure.
There's a community. The thing I was just talking about is a good thing, community, and how do I help?
Yeah.
But I wish love paid the rent. It does not. Money pays the rent, and we have to be in a place where we can ask for what we're worth. Maxed out credit cards, took bad loans, did all those things, and to finally bring this around, you got to reach your bottom. And I got frustrated enough that I was like, if I'm going to stay in this, I'm going to have to figure out, a way to make this my life. And all my heroes were lifers. And I wasn't going to get the amount of genres I was doing. And things started kind of crumbling after, the CDs went away. I was like, this is not going to be the same. And it didn't crumble. It just became a different thing. It's like, I'm going to have to rethink about what I'm doing. So I started putting on a pot of coffee every morning and borrowing, begging, and stealing film placements. I would just call and I said, would you put my film, click. I got a song called Chicken with you. Nope. And I got one yes. I think this was back in like the mp3.com days. It was The Matrix Revisited. I was in the special features. I was so far back, you could not have thrown a rock and heard the mix. It was like back, but they sent me some money, and that Flash Gordon feeling of my music maybe did this much to help that scene.
Yeah.
And it made my music cooler. I hope it made the scene a little bit cooler.
Nice.
That feeling to this day, if I'm walking through, and I've got, I'm trying to boast, it took 100 years to do it, but I've got a couple thousand songs out on thousands of shows at this point. And if I'm walking through an airport and I hear a little thing on there, it's still like, and it's not just an ego trip. It's just like, holy crap. It's like, what? And it's funny how much you could beat yourself up too, because you immediately, I know because everybody around here mixes, you're like, yes, and the hi-hat is too loud, or B and A. But, so you're constantly, it's why none of our partners can put up with this, because you get in the car and you're just like, no, I got an idea. I don't want to listen to any music. You're like, I'm trying to work on this. Like, would you just relax and enjoy the rides? And I'm like, no, I'm thinking, it's like, you little punk. No, I finally started getting diversified, is what we would say on the financial literacy side. I finally started building some relationships that weren't just, how do I play this club? Or, and I finally started realizing that 100% of zero is zero.
Yep.
Growing up with Prince, man, when he put Slave on his face and was talking in interviews about you got to get your own mastering rights.
Yeah.
What I had to realize was you do not have a record deal with Warner Brothers. No one gave you $100 million. You're going to have to give away some publishing. And once I got to a place where I could, stop seeing everything as the enemy. And once I just went, okay, look, you're going to have to make some concessions here.
Not everything's a zero-sum game. Yeah.
Man, that's much better put. And just also kind of getting to that place where if you're going to play the long game, you're going to get a lot of at-bats. So, if you can keep yourself, and this goes to a lot of other, places.
Surely.
I mean, taking care of your mental health, taking care of your relationship, making sure if you're going to be with somebody that you
that you want to be.
Yeah, and when you're there, this is the hardest thing for me. I mean, you could tell I'm a head full of bees anyway. When you're there, be there.
Absolutely.
And once I finally got a little bit of balance, and I stopped, Questlove calls it the champagne moment, when I stopped being like, well, the record deal is going to save my life, or if I get a big check, then I'm going to be happy. Like, everybody that's read a rock bio knows the person is the most miserable when they get everything they wanted, because you're still yourself.
Yeah.
And
you
if you
deal
ain't,
with that.
yeah,
You ain't ready to deal with that.
and I was, man, it took me a while to be ready to deal with that. A lot of the time in my 20s, man, I was like, man, the anxiety, a lot of that stuff. So, man, I finally got on that slow and steady path. It's just like, I know that when I'm in the process, I'm happy. When I'm, when you're turning green, trying to finish a mix. Anytime whatever it is you do, doesn't have to be music. If you've lost track of time, then you're in the flow. And it's almost like a meditation. Like you're where you're supposed to
flow
be.
State. Yeah,
as long as you ain't hurting anybody and you're doing your work, I don't think there's any better place to be. So I kind of just started going, you know what? This might not work for the band, but I'm going to record it anyway. And if I got, even if maybe I'm not making a lot of money recording the bands in the studio. At some point, you have to kind of break some branches to make the tree strong. I said, I'm not going to record other bands anymore. I'm just going to try to kind of start building this catalog up. And man, it took a long, long time, but that was the thing that sort of broke the door down for me when I've done 120 records that are for film and TV that are mine. I play drums, bass, keys, mixed them, and then I have my like 20 solo records that I publish. And once I had enough stuff to be able to go into those rooms and feel at least a little bit confident. I mean, I feel like, any artist has some imposter syndrome. If we didn't have a little hole in our heart, we never would have got into this thing.
It's the artist paradoxes. We have that, but we also, in order to put your art out, you have to have some type of depth of, I think you need to hear this. So there's that paradoxical arrogance that comes with it. That's just innate because if you think your music should be heard, that's a statement. That's saying I believe something that may or may not be true for everybody else.
Yes,
but it's something you have to step out on that ledge to do in order to put your music out, and then to do it with the intent of maybe making some money with it.
Yeah,
whole nother level of things there. When you
and the money is the most beautiful and dangerous thing you can get because the second you get a good amount of it, I mean, we'll stay off the financial literacy thing for a second. How easy it is to blow all the money and forget that if you're not helping other people or doing something with it, eventually chasing all that stuff ain't gonna make you happy either. But definitely, what happened to me was the first time you look at a BMI statement or wherever your royalties are coming from, you go, "Ooh, these songs did well. I better do more stuff like that." Okay, that's okay if that was in you anyway.
Right.
You can tell when an artist, like when Prince had like a run of stuff, like Sign of the Times, I'm going off the deep end, but you can't have an interview where I don't talk about Kiss or Prince. It's not happening yet.
Yes.
You could see like all those B-sides, they had that sound. He wasn't done with that sound. Right. And so you go to the vault and you go, okay, he still had a little more to give. If naturally you were going to do that and you're selling it, good on you, man. You're in that sweet spot. But if you start chasing that one thing, whatever we chase, I'm not telling you anything. I'm just, for a younger person that hasn't run into this yet, whatever you're chasing, by the time you hit it, it's going to move.
It's the next thing.
But
especially now.
Oh, man, it's moving real quick.
Crap, it moves crap.
And I think more than ever, things are so all over the place. I think a lot of people are looking for somebody that goes, no, I don't care. This is who I am. I'm going to try this. Now, granted, you have to have enough money to eat. You have to have enough money to build a little studio to do that.
Sure,
But if you can get to that place and then just get the distractions away, I kind of just tried to find what my little niche was. I mean, I've always loved that dark Deadwood, Rye classical. It's probably Willie Nelson going back to Django. I heard the country stuff, and I wasn't into country because I was a rock and roll. It's like, I can't listen to country. It's like, Willie Nelson is the coolest dude around.
Very.
And so, but I think my mom's the sad classical piano and some of that classical guitar that Willie played, Trigger. It took me a long time to realize it. I think all that stuff, somebody told me once, if you're really unhappy, think about what made you happy when you were 12 or 13. And that may not be, you're not going to get to do that as a job necessarily, but there's probably some key to something that is you before everybody told you what to be, before you started chasing money or, God forbid, fame. There's another problem is I was wearing them purple pants and, at night just like, look at me, weed, look at me. It's like, man, those things are all byproducts.
Surely.
And once I got back to the process and just kept trucking, it took a long time, but that whole 20 years of being overnight success, once the money started coming and the placement started coming, they started coming really fast. So that's when really the charity got to get off the ground because I had enough money to do something. And it's like, if you got a mic, man, use it. Talk about something that matters, I mean, I'm not trying to be like I have the answers, but if you're not doing something in service of something other than the look at me, That gets pretty.
It does.
It gets pretty old. Not that it's
really
not.
does. No.
The most fun things watching you play drums. I love when I'm playing guitar. I'm lost in time.
You have to enjoy that part.
I love it.
You have to look like you enjoy that part. Of it.
No, I genuinely, man. I mean, and it's crazy. You know, I'm lucky. I mean, I got a better half and a little 2-year-old. I still like the road like I did when I was 20. I love being on the road. Nice. But you do if you start making some money with it, you got to. You know, I think, what are you gonna do, man? I don't want to wash a fancy car, man. I just want to put some miles on it, man. Let's go.
So have you gone into partnerships with publishing companies as well? Have you done anything? Have you tried at all to do it all by yourself?
Oh God. That story.
Is it worth even trying?
Man, you're asking the best questions. It's funny you said that because, the cool thing about being on the road, even if you're just playing a 2-bar backs and a cricket, you're learning your craft.
Yeah.
And I always used to feel so bad. It was that thing of, oh man, that's finally this music supervisor came and I only had 12 people there. Well, Lauren Michaels of Saturday Night Live said, did you entertain or did you not? Because nothing else you're going to say matters.
That's it.
You can tell me what went wrong. You can tell me, well, I was going to do that. You either deliver or you don't deliver.
You don't.
And so if it's happening, they don't care. Matter of fact, they might like it more because I found this thing in the middle of nowhere that nobody knew about.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like,
I love that experience.
Man,
personally.
Totally. And so I was like, well, you know what? I don't have to have 1,000 people at a show to own the fact that I'm living on the road and the band at the time was Jesse and Billy, the guys I grew up with. I had the same band for a decade. I was very lucky for it. And, no matter what, you get tighter once those pistons are rolling.
You do.
And I got to a place where I was like, you know what? Whenever I hit St. Louis or Kansas City or market with some advertising agencies, back then it was, I thought it was cool. I had a USB key. I was like, oh, I'm ahead of it. And I would go around and I would say, hey, I'm playing. I was opening up for actually Chuck Berry at Blueberry Hill. And that was like the biggest thing ever for us. A grandfather of rock and roll. I went and I said, look, I got 2 tickets to Chuck Berry for you. This is my key. Please give a listen to this. Put this in your films. Without fail, we use killer tracks. We use APM music. We have a blanket deal with a 600-pound gorilla. They got somebody that's got, why do they need to choose from my 1,000 things if they've got 800,000?
Right.
So at some point, I've tried to fight every battle myself. And let me tell you, man,
it's hard.
you got to know.
Need a team, need an army.
Stay in your lane sometimes. Yeah, you need a team. And I finally went, this is one thing where if I can't beat them, I'm morally feeling weird about joining them. I got a deal. I had enough records. I think I ended up with, it took about 90 records to get the deal. I was able to get a deal with APM Music out in Los Angeles. Nice. And they have been, the 12 years I've worked with them, a lot of what I'm able to do with the charity is because of this, we call them the slipper checks. Get up, go out, get your slippers on, get your check. Now, granted, it took 1,000,000 hours of work to get to that place.
That's what it is.
But now that stuff, while I'm touring or yelling about financial literacy or, my little kid screaming at 3 a.m, I'm like, I got you, baby. I'm still making a little money off those royalties.
Sure.
And I did try to do it myself and I needed the help. And once again, you give away, 50%, but what you get back is somebody else doing the contract. And we, there's boxes we check. There's things that I won't license to. There's things that I don't want to be a part of. But in general, I mean, man, I got to, if there's a tiny house show, the shows you ain't watching, I got it covered. Thankfully, my wife, it's the only time my wife's ever thought I was cool. And that's one thing. You do want to marry somebody that knows you're full of crap. She knows I'm full of crap. Man, she watched all those like house makeover shows. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about some of the bigger publishing companies is, you work, and then it just sort of floats out. Man, I was on one. I was like, that's me while they're painting the cabinet. And she's like, you on Tiny House Nation? And I was like, I've been on Bloodline, I've been on CS, I was on Stephen Colbert's music. It's like, no. Now you're on the Tiny House Nation.
Now you're serious.
I was like, God dang it. So that was a win.
About to say, put that in the win column.
But this all sounds great when I'm like, I got songs on blah, blah, blah. Man, this took,
how much work? Like, it's so many work hours.
Oh, man.
Like you say, how many songs are in your database right now that are just for... And actually, that's a great question.
These are all great questions, Marky. You're very good at this.
When you have a collection of songs, how do you decide whether is this something I want to just towards for publishing, or is this going to be something I release as an artist and something I want to perform on the road? Or
so great. So those 20 solo records that I have are not in that publishing company. I tell other artists that are looking at, so my publishing company is called Kingdom 2.
Okay.
And I got a great crew, great staff of people that keep that rolling while I'm out yelling about financial literacy and still playing. we have a pretty good sense of, I mean, it's our job to, and their job especially, what they get paid the big bucks to figure out, what music supervisor want. I mean, obviously I had a lot of music for sports when rock was sort of the dominant force in that. And that was bound and meant to change. And now that that's moved over to hip hop and hybrid stuff, inevitably you go, we've got a lot of rock. Let's move into this.
Let's see what happens.
And it's, you have to make those decisions. I always say to people, and I just say to people, look, if you got something that's your swan song, this is this miracle, or with me, stuff where you can't aim the song. If you try to control the muse too much, you're going to get punished. But inevitably, if you're upset about something in the world, sometimes it slips through. I've written some songs about, I don't write about, like the janitor in the morning at the school's like, do you guys write about money? Because that sounds like it sucks. I was like, that would suck. No, but inevitably, if you're writing about, us being kind to each other, love, or, figuring out how to make things work, you are going to probably have a couple lines in there that they're not going to be about selling Dial soap. Right. They're not going to go in. Nobody wants to hear me be all depressed singing about things that are unfair for Tiny House Nation.
Surely.
So some stuff I keep back just because it really isn't. It's not really for that. But I say to musicians that are saying, "Hey, would you do the publishing?" I say, "Look, if you got something that you think's your hit, man, keep it. But if you're prolific and you got some stuff, this is a great way to know just that you're going to get some mailbox money and because of the amount of music that's out there and shows that are out there." If you do, you might not hit it with one record, but if you've got a few records in there, you're going to see something, get placed. I mean, obviously the quality has to be high and the production and stuff. But, or depending on what it is, I mean, if it's something that's, left to center and supposed to be quirky, right. There's no rules.
You never know. But yeah, there's a lot of independent films getting made out there. And there's so much more opportunity because of just the proliferation of the technology. And so, so you do have just a separation of that. Do you ever think about maybe later on down the line that song might be up for publishing, or is it just you just keep it delineated?
These are such good questions. I have, I'll be honest, there's a lot of years I was still doing my Prince thing, even when I had the APM, just like, well, this song's going to be found and be, this will be the third act where I'm singing and it's going to be $50,000 and it's, and I, hey, you got to have some, again, you got to have some delusions of grandeur to put on a Superman cape and go,
look at me. As an artist.
So I've had a couple really solid placements like that, but the bulk of my publishing work is, and there's some cool shows that they've gone in through APM. APM gets some great stuff. And some of the sports stuff, they're big moments. It's really cool. Nice. But no, man, I went, okay, I'm holding all this stuff, waiting for that champagne moment, whatever this record label that's going to come change my life. And I finally went, okay, that's 4 records back. I'm putting that in APM. And it immediately started making a little money and doing good. And I was able to, how it is. When you show the high school students, I had some stuff on the Iron Man 2 DVDs. I think it was like special features. But it counted. But, the thing is, when it's on the film reel, it's your music behind Robert Downey Jr. Yep. The same hype I'm telling the kids not to believe in, I got to use at the beginning to get their attention. Because they go, oh, man, you hanging out with Robert Downey Jr.? I was like, I've never met Robert Downey Jr.
Not even a distant approximation.
No, but that's one really cool thing about music publishing.
It shows what the work...
It does, and it's out there with it. It's part of it. It's a little piece of it, but it gives you a lot of confidence. I think that's something especially for younger artists, because it took me so long to get rid of, and I don't think anybody's all the way rid of imposter syndrome. To be human is to feel a little, where am I? What is all this?
Oh, yeah.
But I definitely, it helped me go, you know what? It's okay that I'm in this room. I worked my butt off, and I deserve to be here. And that took longer than it should have. But for younger artists, I think if you hear your stuff on something, and this is not a ploy for a pitch for my publishing company. There's other publishing companies like me that do this. Send some stuff to them. Some of the background music, like in Anthony Bourdain's stuff, the No Reservations and some of those shows, he was doing, most of his stuff was world to other countries. It was ex-US.
Yep.
And I love a lot of the world beat music. I love those other rhythms. And none of that stuff was placing for me in the States. And they used like 40 songs. And to hear that with other people, and now I'm being a name dropping jerk. No one would ever known this was me. It's way in the background of the show. But when they interviewed President Obama at it was the Vietnam episode, the song in the background in that is mine. And
hey man, talk your stuff, man. That's okay.
I never met
the
former
people have
president.
To understand that the work.
But that stuff, man, it makes you like, you know what? I am a tiny piece of this moment in time.
That's it.
And then you know, the thing is, instead of feeling like, man, I got to get back to work, I was like, man, I'm gonna record another record. So
and then
whatever gives you a little spark.
You know how much music I've discovered that way, just in the DVD extras. Absolutely, I've Shazam music off of there. And just been like, oh, this artist, this song isn't available, but here's who it's by. And it's like, oh, whoa.
Marky, I could talk to you all day. Now let's talk about dumb things I've done, because now I'm like I'm name dropping being in the 40 miles in the background or something. I made the mistake when Shazam first started. The cats at APM called me and they said, man, okay, so you got, these, first few records, a lot of these are yours. They're Gooding. And I said, yeah, but I called my band Gooding, so all this weird stuff that I like to do, I can't call that Gooding. Just call that Kingdom 2. So, man, all my early stuff.
Gotcha.
And then I'll give you another one, man. I had a management company start playing those games with Spotify to buy the playlists. I'm not even blaming them. They're trying to do what they're trying to do. Sure. But we got a gob of money from an investor, and we started, and I tell you, money, let's be honest with you, what is it, 0 to 100,000? It absolutely, I mean, if you can't afford to eat or you can't afford healthcare, money's everything.
Everything, yeah.
But at some point, money doesn't fix everything. You gotta have great ideas, you gotta have great people, you gotta do all this stuff.
Surely.
We try to buy our way into some playlists and play some of those games. Man, Spotify dropped. I was doing okay. They kicked us to the bottom. We got punished on that. Just, man, there's no shortcuts. There's just no shortcuts. Because there's things you could do, and you always want a good marketing idea. You're going to go out and talk about your branding when you're on the road. That's beautiful. But man, a lot of that pay-to-play stuff, it works for a minute, but they find, I mean, I say that and somebody's going to be like, here's $300. We got to get this on the spot. I was like, go do it. But it is wild how, just how that stuff can take you away from figuring out who you are, because it just so immediately puts me in that. I think a lot of us this day and age with so much information coming through and just so much to fill our time. I think we have to get really good at the left brain and the right brain. I don't know enough about the science about this, so use whatever metaphor. Help me. You've been saying beautiful stuff all day. Help me through this. We have to, for me, I still got we talked about this before the interview, I got the paper planner, man. I got the highlighters. I love all this stuff. Yeah. But it's really to go, this is my day. I'm doing all these, I'm going to try to do these calls. This is the day I'm going to try to, and maybe not go feel creative that day. But the funny thing is that business and busyness, I think I stole this from John Hope Bryan, it's like, they may sound the same, they are not the same.
Not the same.
I used to fill my day with I call them pillars. I was just putting up, hiding back, I'll call these 5 people that already kind of like me because I don't want to make the tough call. Or I will, I'll solve everybody else's problems so I don't have to look at my own problems. You find all these ways not to do what you're supposed to do, which is get up a little earlier, go to bed a little later, try to find that extra hour in a day. For me, I would try to get good at things that I probably wasn't supposed to be good at anyway. If you were lucky enough that somebody let you be even a little good at this or writing a lyric, man, hold on to that. Get better at that.
Yeah.
I used to double down on so much goofy stuff, man. It's crazy.
What was one thing you doubled down on?
Oh, man, I got, when electronic music first got going, I got way into, this is laughable now, but I thought trip hop was the coolest thing in the world, man.
Was.
I actually just posted.
Are you kidding me?
Well, yeah, it's
when Massive Attack hit.
Dude, I listen to Massive Attack almost every workout to this day. Dude, I literally put on one of my stories the other day, man, they're making them, you seen them little 33 and a third little books where they just interview the artist just about one record.
Yeah.
They're introducing by DJ Shadow. And I lost my wig. I was like, because Josh Davis, you don't get a lot of interviews with him.
Wow.
That and the Private Press, those records, Massive Attack, a lot of the Bristol stuff.
Yeah,
I thought that was so cool. Oh, dude, Angel.
Angel. I should say Angel.
Just right off the top, man. It's crazy. But my thing was, oh my Lord, I'm gonna do 50 records of this. Okay, you are on a tour with guitar, bass, and drums. And my voice, hey, look, it took me a long time to learn. We all got, you're who you are.
You gotta find
who you are.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sing like, what's Robert Del Naja, what's that brilliant, the woman that did the young woman that did a lot of the vocals on that record. I should know her name as much as I listen to the record. Folks, look it up, beautiful. I'm not going to sing like that. So I started putting, and it's cool, some of it placed, but I mean, I was making all these electronic records, and my God love Jesse and Billy, man. They're like, you know, we're not going to play this on stage. Like, you're not going to press play and play guitar over the stuff. I'm like, I went on like a Borders bookstore tour, and I put it on the, man, this is the age of my set. It's like a mini disc, and I'm playing some classical guitar over this trip hop. I was trying to fuse what I love to do live with how much I loved electronic music and score. Both things are valid, but you didn't need to cross them. You didn't need to sell a trip hop record to people that just paid to watch you go off on a guitar.
Surely.
So it's like, one of my favorite quotes, I don't remember who said this, but they said, you can have it all, but you can't have it all at once.
Ooh, yeah.
And that goes for music, that goes for family, that goes for money, that goes for...
Absolutely.
Most things that are good speaking of taking time, you let me know when we've run off the rails here. Most things that are good are, I think I stole this from Terry Crews. Things that compound, they take a long time, but if you'll stick with them, that same momentum will show you're doing the right thing. If you save money, and the thing is, it's the game. That's why we talk about financial literacy. The younger you start, the better chance you have because you have time for it to compound. But it's the same with relationships. As long as you love and trust that person, if you stick in there and if you'll work and fight at that, there's gifts you're going to get. There's things you're going to figure out about yourself. You're going to become in a different way than just, I'm going to try this, do this, and this. And there's nothing wrong. We got to find ourselves. But I think like relationships, money, finding yourself as an artist, it's okay if it takes some time.
And it should.
I wish I would have gone back and somebody would have said to me, get who you are right. Figure yourself out. Like if it's all you have is the love you got to give. If you don't figure out kind of how to be okay with yourself, you're going to try to release 50 trip hop records and a Spanish guitar record and then loud rock and then, and I was producing some hip hop stuff that I had a blast with, but crap. I wasn't going to get to play that stuff live. I was trying to be, I just love music, but I was trying to be all things to all people. And, there's no more, I think Willie Nelson says, no more dangerous thing than trying to be, somebody else.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's why that guy's 91. I just saw him July 4th out by Philly. Yep, he was he's got his sons picking up the harmony and helping. But he went out there, man, and he just went like this, and everybody felt the love he had, and they felt that he knows who he is. And it just, he built a community through that. So it's really, anyway.
Incredible.
I'm all over the place here, Mark. It is a good time.
I mean, it's money, and it's dealing with money and art. And it infiltrates into every little aspect of how you live your life if you are an artist, because...
There's no way around it. The beautiful thing about somebody doing, blue-collar job is you're like, no, this is my job. I feed my family.
Absolutely.
I'm going to do this.
I was a custodian for years.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. You don't have all of this mania of the guilt that you're supposed to feel for, oh, you did sell something that was, your art, or you asked somebody to listen to you. Or if you I don't know if it's worse to actually not be making any money in the music business or make too much money too fast.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm, making like crazy money, but I've had consistently really solid money for a while now, enough to go, wow, I was a full-time musician when I was cooking ramen in the coffee pots.
Absolutely.
But I wasn't a full-time musician that any woman probably wanted to raise a kid with.
Right.
But the thing is, there's all this baggage that comes, and I had a lot of it from childhood, man. My dad's side of the family had some money, but we weren't with them, and my mom was, she was struggling. So I was like, rich people are all, and you start making these. Every rich person is bad. You start putting all these little games you start playing, in your head. And
judgments on everything.
Well, and I think you start thinking that drama creates art, or that like you have to have this grist for the mill in order to create. And man, at least for me, creativity likes a peaceful place to land. It likes time to get centered in yourself, to feel okay, to know you have some time to try an idea.
Yeah.
The drama didn't. It's good. You can look back on it and you can use it.
You can pull from it, absolutely.
But if your whole life is a mess.
Constantly that.
Yeah, people eventually are going to go, you're responsible for your own experience. You're responsible for your own trip. If everything you do is mired in insanity, not only are people not going to want to back you, not going to want to work with you, but I imagine you're probably not going to be being able to have the energy to stay up all night and finish your thing, because it saps energy.
It's so much.
All my drama and all my vulnerability there's a way to use that stuff. But if you want to live in it,
it's draining.
It's draining. And I've noticed, man, when I finally got some therapy, or when I finally read some better books, or asked some better questions, or got some mentors, or when I started trying to expand myself a little bit, that's actually when I also started making some money. So that's one of the messages for the students is it's not about the money. It's about kind of who you have to become to get to a place where you can help other people or get your family stable or do what the janitor's doing, which is, hey, look, I work hard and I deserve every dollar.
Absolutely.
And I take care of people. And that's a beautiful thing. A lot of musicians, I think we kind of, especially when we're younger, it's like, oh, it's cool to be in the bar and Hemingway was drunk and I do my best work when I'm
the artiste.
Well, yeah, man, if you want to do this, and that's cool, man, if you want to just have a few years in the music business and be wild, there's been some great bands that have done that. But if you really want to do this for a living and you want to have a kind of a life of trying to make art, it's going to take some discipline. And it's going to take some finding, yourself. So, I mean, I'm still working. I don't have any of this stuff figured out. I'm writing in the journal every morning trying to figure this stuff out. But it kind of starts from here and goes out from here.
Beautiful.
I was chasing too much out here, trying to bring it in here.
Right.
And
then finally, radiate out.
Yeah, radiate's a good word.
What are some of those like financial priorities that helped you?
Yeah, let's get something specific.
That helped you like work that out. Yeah, like priorities. Like how did you figure out I need to taxes first, or I need to make sure I understand what an LLC is versus sole proprietorship first.
Beautiful. I think some of the other creatives in the world may understand this problem. There was no worry about taxes because I wasn't making any money. You got to file something. But don't worry, I didn't have to chase down those payments. There wasn't enough coming in. It was all outflow. And that's actually, it's funny because it took me, I never realized this, all those years that you aren't making money. Or you're making money, but I mean, you know how it is. I mean, you can go on a tour and you can make $50,000. The tour costs $80,000.
Yeah.
And like that, I mean, it vaporizes.
Real quick.
And you could be staying in a Motel 6.5 with no doorknob, and you still got to get rooms. You got to get, I mean, people, I'm not whining, but there's a lot of expenses. I think the thing that was mind-boggling to me is when I finally started making money, they're not going to give you credit for all those years you didn't make money.
No.
Those taxes, that first couple years when you actually are seeing some real royalties,
they're gonna look
the taxes will hit you because you got to pay that year and then you got to start paying your quarterlies for the next year. It's funny, we actually don't talk to the kids about taxes. Nobody ever asked me about taxes. I love this. But I would say it is that's one thing where I do feel for entrepreneurs. It gets really easy for me to be like, oh, you made $1 million, boo-hoo. If you're paying a lot of taxes, it means you're making a lot of money. So don't whine. I want roads, I want clean air.
Absolutely.
I want schools.
Please.
This is a beautiful thing. But when you don't make money for years and you have to pay it all at once and then the next year, woo, it's a scary thing. Getting ready for that is a thing. For me, it's the basic stuff. It is, first of all, the mindset of even if you got what you wanted, because I mean, everybody want to be Instagram famous or TikTok famous. I wanted to get the record deal. Somebody wanted to get the sports contract. Sure. You probably know all these stats. It's 78% of the NFL broke financial stress within 5 years. 60% NBA, 68% MLB, and it does not matter if they make $1 million or $100 million. They go up like this. They don't have any financial literacy. They come down even faster. Now, why do we care about it? 0 is not the bottom anymore. True. When I was coming up, they weren't sending 50 credit cards to your dog. There wasn't a same-day lender on every block. Where I rode my BMX bike in Twin Lakes.
I remember that.
Man, you can get a loan in the South where we're doing these programs. Man, we see these places. There's 16 same-day lenders on one block in McGavick or 2 blocks in McGavick, north side in Nashville. You can, some of the loans, they're up to, I think 400% is the national average. More of these places than Starbucks and McDonald's in some states.
Wow.
And I've seen them as high as 1,300%. So for every $1,000 you or your family gets behind, you owe these people $13,000. I tell some of these kids, especially if I go to a nice school, and I'm like, hey, that's good. If you're on third base, you're gonna have a chance to help some other people. Yeah. And if you don't learn this, you're gonna blow it too.
Yep.
But it's like, if you watch TV and you're laughing, like, look, they taking the house or the car. Don't laugh. Because people, there's no way to get out from under. So anyway, learn about what interest is. You got to start saving young, especially if you're coming from nothing, because the only way to beat that is going to be the long game. You're going to have time for your money to make some money for you, make some money while you're sleeping. I mean, we get all the way into it, man. We talk about credit cards. We talk about savings. We talk about, please, put away at least 10% of everything as soon as you can. And then a lot of it really is just kind of avoiding the hype. It's like stuff seems like it'll make us happy, but I know some people who have everything and they're miserable. And I know people working at their dreams who don't have much. And because they have that feeling of purpose, the journey is really fun for them. And so you kind of, money's not everything, but 0 to 100,000, it's a lot.
Surely.
The last thing, is we do talk about credit score. And while that sounds like the least rock and roll thing in the world, one of the stats I learned from John Hope Bryant, most 580 credit score communities are within 15 minutes of a community that's 710. The average lifespan of the 580 is 61 years old. The average lifespan of the 710 and up is 81 years old. So in America, money is life. What that means is you didn't hit 65, you're not going to get any Social Security. It means literally, if you have financial literacy, you have better wealth. The wealth is the tiniest part of it in my mind. Better food, less violence in the community. Spousal abuse, one of the number one reasons is stress about money. Divorce, stress about money. It's like, I don't like that this is what it is, but I'm not going to change that system. This is the way it is. So let's all get hip to it. And let's try to make it a little bit better, for each other.
Like the more of us that know how to, if we want to change it, we have to know what there is to change first.
There it is.
And a lot of times we don't understand how intricate and how interconnected everything is. And so, we want to just rally against the big bad, the big monster. And it's like, as much as I have done that, because Lord, have I been guilty of it.
Me too.
Rage Against the Machine is more than a band. But it's like
Amen.
But Fonte, one of my favorite rappers, he said, "Why Rage Against the Machine when you can just unplug it?"
Wow, that's strong.
And if you don't know what the machine is, how to unplug it, if you don't know how it works, then good luck trying to dismantle it.
Mark, this is the most fun podcast I'm gonna do for a long time. I gotta say, edit this if you need to, but you back and swimming in the deep end. Let's do it. I think the thing that it took me a long time to learn was that the machine is so big that some of the people working in the machine don't even mean to be in the machine.
Yeah.
This cat, Noel Galan, one of my favorite people in the world, man, he started with me before he hadn't tour managed for anybody and he hadn't run sound. He told me, the only lie I ever told is I told you I'd done sound. I went home and looked up everything on YouTube and you helped me not get it to feedback. But we started working together, man. And I said, I was starting to give these, financial literacy speeches. And he was so sweet. He was like, yeah, man, I didn't really know, I didn't know a lot of this stuff and I didn't know what people were doing, when they call and offer these people these loans. He goes, I worked for one of those companies. I said, what? He goes, before I got the job with you, I was calling and telling people to consolidate debt and doing all this. He's the sweetest human being you're ever going to meet. He's the most conscientious, kind person. It was just a job. And, I think there's a lot of people that work at huge institutions that they're like, yep, this is it. You become a number to a machine that big. And so I'm not letting people at the very top off the hook if they're going, well, $35 isn't enough for a late fee. Let's make sure somebody that's already at zero pays us $40 today. It's like, dude, if you got zero, every day that you're behind being $35 could eventually take food out of the mouth of a kid that you got.
Eventually you close the account.
Yeah, and then you're unbanked. And don't get me started about what happens when you slip down too far. How hard is it to get back even to zero on the line? That's why I'm doing this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, I'm not telling you anything. Yeah, I think that instead of kind of blaming these things, it's like if people I can't tell you how many people I've talked to, really kind, well-to-do people that gave money to the charity wanting to help. Genuine, nothing in return. We weren't going, most of the schools we do are 95% free and reduced lunch. They're not going to get a return on investment necessarily immediately. We can show them metrics on how the kids are learning. How it works, but they're not, these kids aren't going to go in a little town in Alabama with 15 same day. They're not going to open we hope they'll open a Roth IRA when they're 18, but they're not going to open an investment account. So I know that their heart is in it. They hadn't heard of a same-day lender. And I'm not even yelling at anybody, but the haves and the have-nots are so far apart now. Right. There's a whole system of hotels now that you don't even see because they're $10,000 a night, and they're not for even people like me that I'm making some money. I'm not staying. Are you kidding me? I'm at the Hampton Inn Northwest tonight, baby. I don't got to pay $20 for the internet. I don't got to pay $20 for the meal. I'm still socking it away. But the thing is, because again, I'm making good money, but I didn't make money for a long time.
Right.
So slow and steady. That's the thing we're trying to say to them, slow and steady. But yeah, the amount of well-to-do people who want to help, who don't even know what these kids are facing. They just don't know. So that's a part of it too, is how do we open up, and I'll leave you with this. Yeah, how do we open up so please put the word out. John Hope Bryant, look up his stuff. Lonnie Quattlebaum and Eric Zoller over at Digital Brand, helped me make a documentary about this.
Names? They're making, okay. I was gonna say, do they have anything out now? I was just giving a
shout out to Wichita. I've got a trailer.
Yeah, what are some resources that have helped you specifically?
In John Hope Bryant's books. It's fantastic. Scott Galloway just wrote a great book called The Algebra of Wealth. A lot of the stuff I've been trying to coalesce and put down both on paper and blogs and on speeches over the last 10 years, he's got in one book. I actually started writing a book about this stuff, and then I saw both of these books and went, yeah, I'm gonna keep working on the documentary. You guys nailed it. I'll still do some blogs, but man, this is the thing is, I don't have any ownership in any of this, nor do I want to. People ask me like, well, what happens if, because when we started out, it was like 16% of the schools talk about this, which is insane. This should be, this is important as anything else you're gonna learn.
Absolutely.
But they're like, what happens if every school talks about it? You guys won't have a job. I'm like, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you think, there's plenty of other things that we could all be working on. I just feel like this is a common denominator for all these other problems we have. I'm lucky I get to do this. I wouldn't have got to do it without the luck of, again, hiring some people smarter than me, getting that board together, having some placements. But I hope other bands will talk about it. And if nothing else, just, I hope people will, if you're going to live in the Western world, money is a reality. I hope they can educate themselves and their family and learn this stuff way younger than I did. Because again, if you start doing this young, even if you're starting from home plate, even if you're starting from nothing. I see kids ask us for food from our trays because they don't have any at home. I see a young woman painted valuable on her arm because her father told her, you piece of crap. We play a place in Beverly Hills that is nicer than any theater I've played. And then I will go, Compton was the next day. You got, sometimes there's no power on the stage. The fact that they're all called public schools and there's that difference is wild.
Yeah.
But if you learn this stuff young enough, and I really believe this or I wouldn't keep doing it, and it's hard for somebody struggling to break the cycle. But the light I see in the eyes of people, there comes a point where that's going to go out. They're going to have too many things happen to them. They're not going to have it. But when they're young, man, some of the kids I see from nothing, they got more hunger and more excitement as somebody's coming through town than some of the kids that, maybe doing good. If they can even start putting away a little bit now, the long game of compound interest, they will have more money than the kids that have money that don't hear this stuff. But you got to break that chain young. Man, I appreciate you, man. You really,
this is
I went probably too many places, but I appreciate y'all having me.